What is going down, faithful? We are coming to you live from the NFL draft. We are actually in the media workroom right now, and this is going to be the final pre-draft show of the season. It's been quite a ride. It's been honestly one of the longest pre-draft seasons that we have had. I would say since 2021, the 2021 off season, where the San Francisco 49ers were picking number 3 overall because, as we know, they have been in the playoffs for every year since then. So it has always been a condensed off season, but this has been one of the longer ones in recent memory, and we have finally hit the point where the NFL draft is tonight. We will probably be finding out who the San Francisco 49ers pick at 11 is in probably about, I don't know, 3 hours or so. And it is going to be an interesting one. So I'm excited to get into it. Let's jump right in, but you guys already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat. Smash that like button. And let's get into it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What is going down, SDS? I see you guys in the comments already. You guys are awesome. I appreciate all the support. For all those saying, living the dream, I am. Being here has always been on the bucket list. It's never worked out for one reason or another, but this time it did, and it's been an amazing experience so far. So I'm super excited, super blessed, and I appreciate everyone's support. Throughout this whole process, I really do appreciate it. But let's talk about this draft. I think it's time that we're going to have to get our final predictions in. I know we've had so many opportunities to talk about who we think the 49ers should take, predicting who that player is going to be. Boy, oh boy. But the time is now. Shout out to Detail in the chat. Says happy draft day, my brother. Enjoy. Same to you, Detail, and same to the rest of the San Francisco 49er fans. This is a fun day because I think draft day for a lot of fans represents hope. It represents optimism. It represents a new era. And with the San Francisco 49ers picking at 11, this is absolutely a transitionary time for the San Francisco 49ers. It really is. Going from, Super Bowl favorites at the beginning of last offseason to not even making the playoffs, to a lot of players leaving in free agency. Your Dre Greenlaws, Talanoa Hufangas, Charvarius Wards, Malik Collins, and Leonard Floyd, Aaron Banks, Deebo Samuel being traded. There's been a lot of changes. Mason, we can't even forget Jordan Mason being traded to the Vikings. There have been so many changes this offseason. So what I do believe the draft brings is it brings new blood, quite literally. It gives us an opportunity to rebuild through the draft. The San Francisco 49ers have a league high 11 draft picks. And so what is going to be fascinating is what they are going to do with these league high 11 draft picks, which also start at pick 11. Now, I'm very fascinating to see who they're going to take. Silence says, I hope they draft your cousin, Mason Graham. Do you know what, man? I really haven't been of the mindset that he was really going to be available at 11. But you get here and you kind of hear some of the rumblings, kind of start to feel it out, and it's like, you know what? Just based on the available prospects, based on hearing, there might be a Jackson Dart going in the top 10. There might be an emphasis maybe on skill positions for certain teams over, let's say, a defensive lineman. I've also heard things about maybe, Mason isn't wowing some teams from a prototypical standpoint. I heard an argument saying that the analytics crowd, that are built within these teams might not like Mason Graham maybe as much as those who just crunch the tape. Go figure, right? Um, but it does kind of have me thinking a little bit is would is there a potential chance that he can slide? Because I think the Jacksonville Jaguars has kind of been the spot where people have been targeting Mason Graham to go. And it honestly does feel like there is a shot where maybe they take Ashton Genty, Liam Cohen, new offensive coordinator. Maybe they go running back. And we saw what type of success they were able to have with Bucky Irving in Tampa Bay. And maybe so he goes and gets his own guy. Or maybe he goes and gets an offensive lineman. You look at their defensive line, they still have Eric Armstead. They've got Allen, Josh Allen, not the one to be confused with the one in Buffalo, and they have the former number 1 overall pick. So they still have some pieces on that defensive line. So the Jags, when I look at their roster construction, I don't necessarily feel like they have to go defensive tackle. So they could totally add to the offense. And if they do, does Mason Graham fall out? And does he go to the Raiders? What do the Raiders do at 6? If the Raiders don't go Mason Graham, I see a scenario where maybe he could fall out and he could fall to the 49ers at 11. So it really hasn't been something that I have thought was going to happen. But after kind of talking to him, I don't know. I found his reaction to me asking him if he's had any contact with the 49ers to be interesting. Again, I don't expect these guys to be ultimately, you know, transparent with the inner workings of what they have done behind the scenes leading up to this process. But it just kind of, I saw someone, I think it was Kyle on Twitter, he kind of psychoanalyzed his body language. And I was like, yeah, you might have a point. Are we on to something? Maybe he did meet with them, and he's just not trying to tip his hands. But anyways, I'm kind of the mindset like if he is there, if Mason Graham is available at 11, we got bells going off in here. What's happening? Um, I think he could definitely be the choice at 11. It will be very, very interesting to see. Justin says the dream for me is Graham at 11, TJ Sanders at 43. I mean, you talk about two studs. Sorry, they're talking. What are they saying? What are you saying? But if you are able to get two defensive tackles, two studs in the first 2 rounds, I think that would be phenomenal. Again, I'm I don't feel like the 49ers have to take edge, right? Because we have been able to identify a lot of edge players in this class that might be second or third round guys. We had Femi Oladejo on the channel. We had David Walker on the channel. Ja Joyner, who's probably going to be maybe 6th, 7th round draft pick. When I think of those two guys, Femi Oladejo, he could be the pick at 75. Or if the San Francisco 49ers are able to somehow obtain a pick or they might have to trade up, to be honest. So if they stand pat at 43 and they take a guy there, and then they take pick 75 and maybe package a day 3 pick or a 2026 pick to move up 10 to 15 spots to go and make sure they get Femi Oladejo or someone of that nature, I would be totally down for that. But what I think we do know is that they have to come away with that minimum 4 defensive linemen. At least that's the way that I look at it. I feel like they have to come away with 2 interior defensive tackles, guys who have a little bit of versatility to them that can play 0 through 5. I don't need a defensive tackle that can play wide 9. It's great if they can, but it's also not something that I think they have to do. So basically, from head up to the tackle into the center, if they can play in that role and play up and down the defensive line, and you get 2 interior defensive tackles that can accomplish that, whether it's Walter Nolan, whether it's Mason Graham falling into your lap, maybe Kenneth Grant or Derek Harmon out of Oregon. I think any one of those guys fits that mold. I just if the guy that isn't there who wows you at 11, I just hope that there is a way that San Francisco 49ers can find a way to trade back. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if there will be any who's dying to move up to pick 11 to make it worth it. And if there is a trade back, the value might not be as great as what we've seen in previous drafts. So it's going to be a fascinating. So Daniel Jeremiah shook it up a little bit yesterday. So I actually had the opportunity to talk to Daniel Jeremiah before he released his final mock. And when I asked him about who he could see being picked at 11 for the San Francisco 49ers, he gave me 2 names. The first name, Walter Nolan. I don't think 49er fans are too upset about that if the pick was Walter Nolan. When I think back to prospects that I've highlighted throughout this process, Walter Nolan was one of the first prospects I talked about. I didn't do too many standalone prospect posts on Instagram. Walter Nolan was the first one. And one of the things that I talked about with him is when you look at his explosiveness, when you look at his ability to shed blocks, you look at his pass rush moves, he's a guy that I could absolutely see being the pick at 11. And then for me, it was a little bit of a double-edged sword, though. I wanted to see how he would hold up in the run game, specifically double teams, because he's a bit of a smaller defensive tackle. So when we got to the Senior Bowl, that was the number one thing that I was looking out for. How can Walter Nolan hold up in the run game, specifically taking on double teams? And he checked those boxes for me at the Senior Bowl. So I feel comfortable if Walter Nolan is the pick at 11. To me, he fits what the 49ers are looking for. You think of what they were trying to get in Javon Hargrave. They were trying to get a 3-tech that could rush the passer and be a force in the run game. They're looking for a 3-down defensive tackle who could be a high level in both different scenarios. So if Walter Nolan's a pick, I'm down with that. I feel like, it's hard for me to address the character concerns. I think people have questions about his effort, his motor, things of that nature. Some things that I just can't determine based on what I've seen. So I can't say one way or the other if those things are true. There's nothing that's really popped up to me that I've seen. But again, these guys have much better insight and information. So I don't know. DJ didn't have Walter Nolan on his final mock draft, who he did have on his final mock for the San Francisco 49ers, was Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel? And so that was the thing is I was talking to DJ. He said Walter Nolan, and then he said, but the guy that I think the 49ers could absolutely take at 11 is Gray Zabel. And I was just sitting there like, Gray Zabel at 11? Because I'm a big fan of Gray Zabel. I think Gray Zabel is fantastic. I believe that when we went to the Senior Bowl and we watched those guys perform, Gray Zabel was hands down the best offensive lineman there. And I'm talking about a whole tier ahead of anyone else who was at the Senior Bowl. So he's a very good offensive lineman. Like, let's not get that twisted. I think the part that maybe myself and others are having like a hard time with is that for me personally, I don't love taking a guard at 11. Now, if he winds up being a future Hall of Famer at guard, then I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But I think, again, one of the issues I have with the positional value is very similar to what the 49ers did just last year, Dominic Pooney. I'm a big believer that you can find interior offensive linemen in the second, third, fourth, and fifth rounds every single year, like clockwork, who are going to start, who are going to contribute, and who have the potential to be all pro players. And so I feel like if you can identify those guys, you can get a much better value. Although when you look at Zabel, you look at a guy who, yeah, he will be a year one starter most likely, depending on the team he goes to and what that opportunity looks like. So I get it. I understand. It would be something where I wouldn't love the value of the pick, but I do love the player, if that makes sense. So I don't know. That's the crazy thing about 11, and that's basically what Daniel Jeremiah was saying is that after 10, it is a crapshoot. We really don't know how this is all going to play out. So going to be interesting. How is it starstruck by anyone famous 49ers? Honestly, I don't really get starstruck. I had the opportunity to interview Cam Moore, Travis Hunter, Mason Grant, Ted McMillan. I have interviewed Daniel Jeremiah. I don't really get starstruck. The only time where I legitimately had like a huge kind of fanboy moment was when I had the opportunity to interview Patrick Willis in person the day after he got inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. That was the only time where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm interviewing Patrick Willis the day after he just got inducted into the Hall of Fame." Um, that was really the like, woo, like I'm a big Patrick Willis guy, and it was such a special moment too because we've been waiting so long for Pete Willie to get in there that was really just a special moment. Shout out to LeBron, member for 32 months. That is crazy. Shout out LeBron. Appreciate you, my guy. Longtime supporter of the channel. Shout out to all the FCS members. Appreciate you guys. Corey says, my dream, number 11, Nolan trade Giants number 75 for Kayvon Thibodeau. Belton at 100. It's not bad. That's not a bad idea. Like, I definitely wouldn't be mad at that for sure. Kayvon Thibodeau, I don't know if he would fit personality-wise. He's kind of got a prickly personality. So I don't know how that would be a fit for our locker room, just how we tend to put an emphasis on guys like that have good personalities. But 75 wouldn't be terrible value. And then Anthony Belton, I would be juiced if we got Anthony Belton at 100. He's a guy that can play both tackle spots, can play both guard spots. So I would for sure be about it. Justin says, I got to ask how you feel about edges like Josiah Stewart, Ashton Galati, and Tyler Barron later. It was funny, Justin. I was in my hotel room earlier today, and it was Miami. They were playing a rerun of a game last year. It was Miami versus Louisville. And, boy, they were talking about Gelati a lot. Yes, he was constantly all over the place. And, I've watched a couple of his highlights and things like that, but he does seem like a player. Like, he really does. He definitely seems like a guy that just hasn't had the hype and the conversation about him, in an extremely deep DN class. But yeah, I would be down for that. Josiah Stewart is another one of those guys who kind of is flying under the radar as a defensive end. And he is also a guy that I think is clearly underrated along with Tyler Barron. I would say my favorite out of the three is Tyler Barron. I think Tyler Barron is criminally underrated throughout this situation, throughout the pre-draft process. But I think all three of these guys are going to be players at the next level. Kind of like Byron Young. They kind of remind me of that Byron Young tier, if that makes sense. Byron Young coming out of the draft, I think 2 years ago, coming out of Tennessee. That's kind of where that's where these guys kind of slot for me. They're in that Byron Young third, fourth, fifth round range that, they're going to be pushed back in the draft probably because of the depth at DN. But if you snag them, they definitely could be some gems. And there's a lot of gems in this draft. And so that's what I'm excited about. And I'm excited about the 49ers process last year. The 49ers process and the draft has given me a lot of hope that they're going to attack this draft with a similar mindset. I feel like last year they put value on production over potential. And I think they saw the fruits of that process. And so that's what I'm expecting. I think a lot of people want Shamar Stewart at 11, and I don't think that fits that mold. Yes, is he an athletic freak? Does he show a ton of promise? And yeah, he's a freak show when it comes to just an athletic specimen. But does he have the production? I don't know about that. And so I struggle with that notion because I've seen some of the tape of him going up against some of the better tackles in the draft, and I wasn't too particularly impressed by it. He strikes me as a guy who is technically raw, And I think when you're coming across a prospect who doesn't show the requisite technical ability to play the position, that's a huge red flag because these guys have been playing football for a long time. And anyone who knows or have watched my draft interviews, you know that we put an emphasis on technical ability. Yes, being big, fast, and strong is great. But at the next level, you can mitigate not having those physical intangibles or physical measurables by having the intangible qualities like technique. Technique is based on repping, it's based on a lot of individual work to effectively master your craft at your position. So when I see guys who are technically advanced, I'm already of the mindset they are going to translate. The guys where I will tend to come across and have pause are the ones who are raw technically. I think of Spencer Burford. I remember getting to Spencer Burford's tape, and he was a great athlete. He looked the part, was he had good feet, like good quickness and things like that. But I didn't see the technique, and I felt like that could be a problem at the next level because just if you're still struggling with baseline technical things that come along with the position, there's no guarantee that that is going to you're going to be able to have your light bulb moment in the NFL. So there are there are always there's two flags for me when I come across a prospect: inconsistency, lack of technical polish. I care more about those two things than I do measurables. Yes, measurables matter, but if I perceive that a player is lacking in those two areas, consistency can prove to be mitigated at the next level. I go back to last year, Roger Rosengarten was a player that I was very skeptical of because when you got into the tape, you could see high level traits. You could see plays where you're like, "Oh, this guy looks awesome." Roger Rosengarten's highlight film was insane. But what scared me away from him was his inconsistency. There were plays where he was out of position, using wrong technique, getting beat, and it was a lot of inconsistency. Same thing occurred with who was it last year? Kingsley Suamataia. Phenomenal athletic profile, phenomenal size, had all the testing numbers, and he was a guy that I liked a lot based on first impression. And then I got into the film and I said, "Oh, this guy is raw, technically raw. He doesn't have the requisite technique that you need to play at the next level." And so, although I started out high on Kingsley Suamataia, I backed off. I said, "Oh no, can't do it." I was wowed by traits. I was wowed by physical tools, and by the time I did my deep dive, I said, "I'm out." I said, "I'm out on him," and I think you could see that what that example looks like when he went to go play for the Chiefs. The Chiefs literally had to bump their guard out to tackle because they couldn't rely on Kingsley because not because I don't think Kingsley has, you know, talent. I don't think he has the technique. He's just raw. And so it's gonna take him time, I think, to be the player that he's expected to be. But that's basically a long-winded way of kind of my thought process when it comes to not going after guys that are just technically that are look great, but are technically raw. Justin says, "Love it. I bought our autographed Tyler Barron card." Nice. Yeah, I would love Barron. They're telling me that the audio is choppy in the chat. Please confirm producers, SDS producers. All right. So now I'm going to shift the gears to you guys, though. So it's not bad. It's not bad, which means it's not great. It's not bad. It's mediocre. It's fine. I'm trying out. I got the new Rode mics for situations like this. Still getting used to it. Um, so I apologize, and if I just blew your ears out, too bad. All right, let's clear it. Let's clear it. Clear the whatever we were talking about. Reset the chat. I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want you to answer it. All right, everyone ready? All right. With the 11th pick in the 2025 draft, the San Francisco 49ers select. Drop it in the chats, every single person right now. Who? This is prediction time. This is your last opportunity to get your predictions in on this channel. Who are the San Francisco 49ers going to take at pick 11? No trades. No trades. All right, I'm going to the top. I'm going to the top. I'll pull these up. I see right out the gate Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker. If he's gone, Walter Nolan. I see Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan, Mykel. A lot of Mykel Williams. I don't. I would feel meh about Mykel. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't love it. I think it would take me some time to grow a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see. Jalen Walker, Walter Nolan. Yeah. Is this Taylor? Shador Sanders. Coach. Out on Stewart, Mykel Williams, Mason Graham. It's kind of what I'm hoping for at this point. James Pierce, Walter Nolan. A lot of Walter Nolan love. Jalen Walker, Walter Nolan. Ooh, Warren, tight end. Walter Nolan. Scatterby, you're crazy, man. I heard that some teams have like a 5th round grade on Scatterby, which is crazy. Oh no, there's Taylor. Kelvin Banks. Zabel. Oh boy. Marsh Stewart, Walter Nolan, Scatterby, Mason Graham, Nolan. All right. So I would say Walter Nolan and Mykel Williams are the winners. Anyone saying Shador Sanders, I'm just going to assume you're trolling. That would be an awful pick. I would say, this might be our first Campbell pick. More of a hope. Yeah, I would say the top winners are Mykel Williams. I would say the number one winner is Walter Nolan. A lot of Walter Nolans. Justin says, I wasn't high on Trayvon Walker, and I feel like I'm not high on Shamar Stewart for the same reasons. Yeah, I would prefer not. Shamar strikes me as such a boomer bust guy that I don't. I wanna feel like we snag someone that we know is going to be instant impact, not like oh, well, I hope that works out. Silent says Steve Smith has Tet rated number 5 wide receiver. Thoughts, Green. Well, so I think the issue that people are having with McMillan is his ability to separate and press, and his play strength and his ability to beat press man. So I think that's the number one knock. I mean, obviously downfield, he's a beast. I think there's a knock on Tet's speed as well. So I think those are. I mean, that's effectively what Jeremiah said. He's like, the two things that I have concerns about are his speed and his ability to beat press man. He even went as far to say that Colston, Loveland, and Tyler Warren are faster than Tet McMillan. So, um, so we'll see. Uh-oh. Wi-Fi cutting out. Can you hear me? We got the McDonald's Wi-Fi kicking in. All right. What are you guys thinking? Should we go? Should we be live for the first round, or should we go live after the first round or after the pick? So this is the situation. Um, I'm gonna have one live stream. It's also going to be streaming to Fanatics View, so it's going to be a dual stream, and it is going to be coming from the green or the press conference. So we are going to do a stream that just kind of ongoing of all the interviews. So we'll have that stream going, and then I'm contemplating do I go live for the first round, or do we go live after? Because this is the thing: is if we draft the player and he's here, then I'm going to be able to interview him. But that I don't know. I can't bring all my stuff with me, so I'm gonna have to figure this out. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna say there's a strong chance that we will be live for the first round. Um, but I also got to figure that out how we're gonna do that if I'm gonna go interview the person that we just drafted. Um, okay, that might be a plan. I'm gonna game plan this out, but I do think we'll probably do a live watch party, and then we'll have to figure it out because like, let's say we draft Mason Graham, he's gonna be here. So I'm gonna be asking him all the 49ers questions. Um, but all right, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna play around with the idea, and then we'll figure it out. But this is it, guys. This is the last pre-draft show. Before we have the draft. So it's 5 about to be 5:15 here in Green Bay. The draft starts in about hour 45 minutes. So we are right around the corner. So going to be an interesting one. But make sure you guys got post notifications on so that when I do post the live, you got the notification. You can set a reminder, and that way you're ready to rock. And then we'll go from there. But shout out to you guys. This is I think one of the more nervous I have been heading into the draft, just because I have no idea what is going to happen. It is going to be a wild scenario. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a big one. Silent says, as we get out of here, which team will shock and which player in the top 10? Ooh. I think Jackson Dart to 9. 9 to the Saints. That feels like it happened. So that's my hope. So that can push someone down. So I'm thinking the what really hasn't been the consensus up until this point, it's gonna be Dart to the Saints and Shador potentially falling out of the first round. So it's gonna be crazy. Gonna be crazy. But I'll see you guys for sure later on tonight. Again, turn on your post notifications on YouTube and all that good stuff. And I will see you guys in a bit. Next time we speak, it's gonna be officially draft time. Let's go. Appreciate all you guys. Do me a favor, smash that like button on the way out, and I will see you guys in a little while from now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see